Let's start with a story. I used to read books for a living, a researcher and writer and publishing peer-reviewed articles, several a year. For years I did this, and I had to learn how to read books. I could read, but I didn't know how to read books in a way that would be helpful to me, to my life, to my profession. And learning that lesson changed everything for me.
Hello, Belle.
Bonjour, Gaston. Gaston, may I have my book, please?
How can you read this? There's no pictures.
33% of all high school graduates never read another book after they finish high school. 42% of college graduates never open another book for the rest of their life. 70% of American adults have not been in a library since they were in school. And over 80% of Americans last year didn't read or even buy a book. Hey, it's not that we're going digital. That's not the reason why. It's that we're not reading books, and I think I know why, and I think I know how to change that. I'm James Callahan, and this is the Do-Over Show, where we change the things we can change. And if you learn the 3 rules about learning to read a book, it can change the way you live and the quality of your life as well. And I'd like to show you how you can learn to enjoy reading books, even the books you have to read. You're assigned for a class or at work, and you're required to read, and you would never read them otherwise, but you've got to read them and pass a test on them. I'll show you how you can learn how to read those books and actually benefit from them. When I was a graduate student, I was a research assistant to one of the all-time best readers of books that I have ever met or heard of. And he had to teach me from scratch how it was, even though I was a grad student and got into a great grad program, how to actually read a stupid book. My professor read hundreds of books every year, but never just the books he had to read for his research. He read everything from tabloids to newspapers to magazines to encyclopedias to textbooks to things that no one would ever read. He used to search the library for books that looked new but were actually 50 or 100 years old, the kind that when you open them, the spine cracks. Those were his favorite. He had one rule that changed everything that I thought I knew about how to read a book. And if you can get a hold of this one rule, it can change books the way you read books. Books that you have to read, and then books that you're going to find that you want to read.
And of course, you must improve our mind by extensive reading.
That one thing is the same thing I learned from my graduate professor a long time ago, and that is, in order to learn how to read, we actually have to read more. So what was my grad school professor's one rule that changed everything I knew about reading a book? Well, here it is. Every book is written with a reason. Unless it's a textbook written for professors by professors that we're forced to use, there are already dozens or hundreds or thousands of books on that topic, on that time, on that theme, on that subject. Yes, thousands of books. So why was this book written? Find that reason and you'll be an insider to this book, or why the book was required or chosen for you, or why you might want to read it. When an author pitches a book to a publisher, it's what's different about the book that makes the book worth publishing. It's what sets it apart. It's the angle, the trick, the theme, the undiscovered, unearthed information, new, discovered, that's going to give them a chance to have a special place alongside hundreds or thousands of other books written on exactly the same topic. In a class I teach from time to time, Religion in American Life, a significant topic that everyone knows about and is interested in is the Salem witch trials. Now, we know nothing of large genocides, mass murders, horrendous events in human history that have taken place, but for some reason, every single person in the class always knows about the Salem witch trials. Thanks, AP US History. So find the reason why a book was written. Find that to get started, and you'll know more than just about everyone else on the topic. A second rule that I've learned since then that is indispensable before I even start to read a book is to figure out what the heck the book's about. Before you start reading a book you're required to read or thinking about reading for fun, Google it. And then you're going to find that the first hit you get on the top of the page is the Wikipedia entry. Yes, before you start reading your book, find out what the heck it's about, why it matters, who cares, and why they care, and give yourself a head start so that when you read something you have never heard of before, you already know something about it, or at least why others think it's important. I know what you're thinking. He's sending me to Wikipedia, and I'm supposed to be afraid and avoid Wikipedia if I'm a smart person, right? Yeah, that's what you've been told by insecure teachers since high school, to avoid Wikipedia because it's filled with lies. Actually, what it is teachers' attempt to control the knowledge and the information that you have access to. Just about everything on Wikipedia is copy and pasted from encyclopedias and textbooks. The difference is they don't want you to know it independent of them controlling that knowledge, of what to think, of what to read, of what to believe, or what to know. Wikiphobia is the problem, and I've done a video on it. You can check it out here and learn to get over your irrational fear of all things Wikipedia. And there's one last help, there's one last rule to figuring out how to read books that can change everything for us. And it's a simple idea. Why the heck are you reading it? Yes, it's that simple. If you're assigned a textbook, then you're reading it to prepare for a lecture or lab, and it's a step-by-step building exercise. So take notes, look up new terms, write them down. This information is not there for your enjoyment. If it's a lifestyle book, what people used to call self-help books, then these aren't like novels. They're not meant to be consumed on a Sunday afternoon with a cup of tea as you go from page 100 to 600 in an afternoon. They have anecdotes and examples, but the bones of the how-to book usually has a mantra, or at least 3 or 7 or 10 things that you can build. Start doing these things. Do this first thing in the morning. Stop doing X and start doing Y. And it usually is a plan that you actually have to work out over days, weeks, or even months in order to build on what the book is giving us. So read it, use it, put it down, try the thing, but don't sit there and try to read it like it's some great American novel. So as you go from Steinbeck Grapes of Wrath to something like the Delta Model by Arnold C. Hacks about the business strategist, probably the most famous business strategist of our time, then you're going to have to read those two books very differently. So that business book or that leadership book, those are pretty easy. They're usually built like IKEA furniture assembly instructions. And we need to know what the furniture is supposed to look like at the end. And good leadership and business books just tell us this is what the piece of furniture looks like at the end. And then we work back through the instructions. Yes, they're as obscure and complicated, filled with as many different Allen wrenches and types of screws and knobs and twists. And yes, you get the idea. You've put together IKEA furniture. But if the book's a novel, it's meant to lead us, to mess with our minds, to take us on a journey, the kind of experience where we almost literally just say, I want to be led, I want to not have to think about this. So let the book take you on a journey, even if you don't know where it's taking you. And if you start to read novels like you would a business book, expecting one big idea and it takes you in another direction, you're going to be frustrated with the book and you're not going to enjoy it. Now, if you want to do that kind of detailed analysis and tear the thing apart with a close reading, then fine, go ahead and do so. Treat it like you're trying to figure out the author's intent in poetry, but don't expect to enjoy it. At least get a good grade for doing it, but that's a different thing than the exercise of actually reading something in a way that can be enjoyable. Now here, a biography. Biographies can be fun, but they tell us as much about the writer of the biography as the subject of the biography. What makes them happy, mad, what they think the world needs to know, what's wrong with the world. And if we only read biographies like that, it's very much like the gullibility of a novel. We will only begin to read things that we already agree with, and we will never have the kind of self-awareness that we need to make sense of a good or a bad biography. Here's something to try. Read a biography about someone you know you hate and you absolutely disagree with, and you can't see any value in their life or contribution or influence. Read something like that and see what people are saying about the things you hate and don't even want to think about.
And I say smut and filth like this has no place in our schools.
Does all this sound harsh to you when you get into these kind of details? Yes. And that's why people ban or even burn books, because they want to control or keep people from reading things that they don't think they should be influenced by or have access to, or even entertain the possibility of an idea. They want to keep you from doing that. That's the power of a book, all kinds of books, is that it gets us into things that we would otherwise not consider or not embrace in our lives. So if you're ready to learn how to read a book in a new and important way, or if you just have to read a book and you can't even get started because you have no clue how to read it, well, this is the way to start with these 3 rules. It'll save you time, it'll save you from frustration, and it'll give you some new ways of viewing the world and the books that the world is filled with. And thanks for being part of the Do-Over Show. I really appreciate it. Could you tap the like button? And while you're down there, how about you subscribe and ring the notifications bell so you don't miss the next episode? I'm so glad you found me, and I found you. Thanks.